Welcome to this week's Legislative Report. The legislature passed a number of bills this week, including the property tax and income tax relief and school funding proposals introduced on behalf of Governor Pillen, as well as measures on broadband and scrap tire recycling. The governor has 5 days to take action on these bills. Late Wednesday, the governor line item vetoed appropriations that were in the budget package passed by the legislature last week, including Medicaid reimbursement rates, rural workforce and middle-income housing, and a number of other items. The Appropriations Committee has filed override motions to reinstate funding for housing, Medicaid provider rates, and staffing in the state auditor's office. Senator George Duncan has filed a motion to reinstate funding for the Supreme Court's operations. Veto override motions will be scheduled for debate on Wednesday. This week started with a filibuster on competing voter ID proposals to implement the photo ID requirement adopted by voters in November. The Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee offered language that would allow voters to use a variety of photo IDs. Voters casting mail-in ballots would provide a state driver's license or ID number or a photocopy of a valid ID. Voters with a reasonable impediment to obtaining an ID, such as a disability or a religious objection to being photographed, could be exempted. Senator Julie Slama, who led the filibuster, challenged the constitutionality of the proposal and offered an amendment with more restrictive requirements for citizenship, mail-in ballots, and exceptions to photo IDs. The bill advanced from the first round of debate on Monday, but was passed over on the second round to allow further investigation of the constitutional concerns. It appears again on Tuesday's agenda. LB 50, a criminal justice reform bill, was advanced from the first and second rounds of debate this week. It would implement many of the recommendations from a study by the Criminal Justice Institute on ways to reduce prison overcrowding. It would expand problem-solving courts and create pilot programs for probation and virtual behavioral health services. The second round debate focused on early releases of inmates and changing habitual criminal laws. An omnibus revenue committee bill was also advanced from the second round. LB 727 contains provisions from nearly 30 bills, including a measure to revise the treasurer's deed process. On Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court found that keeping surplus equity after a sale of property with delinquent taxes is a violation of the Takings Clause of the U.S. Constitution. The language in LB 727 would limit the use of treasurer's deeds to low-value properties and require tax sale certificate purchasers to return surplus equity to the owner after subtracting costs and fees. When the legislature reconvenes on Tuesday, 5 days will remain in the session. Adjournment is scheduled for June 10th.